Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Moral Aspects of Medicine, now into the first module of our course time together. Before we launch into some reading and some discussion, I thought it would be a good idea just to get out onto the table, as it were, a number of specific terms and concepts that are going to be coming up over and over again throughout this course. It's good for us to have an idea of what we all mean when we use certain words, especially in philosophy or theology. So the first term that I want to mention is agent, A-G-E-N-T, agent. We use the word agent to refer to a human person, a human being, as they act in ethical or moral situations. So a human being who is engaging in ethical decision making or is behaving in a certain way that has ethical or moral implications is usually referred to as the agent. That is, the person who is actually doing something of significance. Now that brings to mind a distinction that is sometimes made between ethics and morality. Now I don't keep a very clear distinction between those two things, but some people do, so it's useful to at least mention it. In some people's minds, morality refers to how it is human beings judge right and wrong, good or bad, based on some deeply held personal belief about the world that can come to them or can be based in some sort of authority that stands behind them, like maybe a religious authority or a family or an ethnic or a cultural tradition. Ethics, in contrast to that, is how groups of people make decisions as to what is right and wrong when those people may come from different kinds of moral backgrounds, but still those people have to, in a sense, get along together in such a way that they have to have some kind of common level of making decisions of right or wrong. And ethics would, in this way, often be based not on an authority, a religious authority or a cultural authority behind the person, but rather on rational argumentation, rational discussion that can be apprehendable and intelligible to everybody involved in the discussion. Again, I don't often keep a clear distinction between those two things, but some authors do, so it's good to have that in mind. Also, it's good to have in mind the distinction that's sometimes made in ethics or morality between principles and norms. Principles are broad-ranging, vague, and sometimes very abstract statements of value. Norms are the more specific ways that statements of value are put into practice. So, for example, a moral or an ethical principle can be, it is good to respect human life. That's a vague, abstract statement of value. Value, it is good to respect human life. Now, that as a principle has to be put into practice via some kind of norm, a rule or a regulation, or a more concisely or more specifically directive statement, like a norm related to the principle of it is good to respect human life could be, now this is a norm, in any and all cases, do not kill human life without justification. You see, in any and all cases, do not kill human life without justification is a specific guide to action, or actually a guide to inaction in circumstances, that is based on the wider, more vague and abstract principle above it, it is good to respect human life. That's just a quick, rough and ready kind of example, but we will talk about principles as vague and abstract statements of value and norms as rules that are derived from principles sometimes. Now, that in mind, in bioethics, in medical ethics in the United States, there are 4 principles. There are 4 general and vague statements of value that are accepted by most everybody in our secular society and many, many, many people in religious communities in the United States today. And these 4 principles inform all discussion and all debate that goes on within the United States in legal issues, in medical policy issues, and in clinical ethical issues. And these are the 4 principles of medical ethics. Non-maleficence, which is basically articulated sometimes as do no harm. Beneficence, which is sometimes articulated as do good if you can. Justice, which is everybody should get his or her due. And autonomy, that is, that every individual and every individual's rights ought to be expected. Non-maleficence, beneficence, justice, and autonomy. You're going to be doing some reading in a little bit that is a fleshing out of some of those principles. But note that in most cases, in most clinical situations, in most ethical debates when it comes to medicine in the United States today, those four principles can be a challenge to balance or to apply in specific circumstances. So bear that in mind as you do the reading for the rest of today's module and as you do the reading for coming days as well. Again, you've got some reading to do, you've got some discussion or a discussion question to think about and then to post on the discussion board. I look forward to seeing those answers to that discussion question and to emailing backwards and forwards with you as well. So good luck, and we'll be in touch soon.